Today we take a flight on a new budget Turkish carrier which has started routes from Birmingham and many other UK airports. Corendon Airlines is based out of Antalya in Turkey. The main target market is the leisure sector, and this is how I came across them. Earlier in the year I started looking at flights to Antalya for a family holiday. Corendon came up as the cheapest. In fact, when they launched flights at Birmingham Airport, the prices were shockingly cheap. However, due to uncertain times with the COVID pandemic, I hesitated to pull the trigger. Eventually, when I came to finally booking the trip, they were still the cheapest, but by then prices had doubled from what I had seen initially. Even though I was kicking myself for having missed a bargain, they were still cheaper than the competition. This is an example booking for next year, and prices are £500 more than what I paid for similar dates this year. My advice is book as soon as flights are launched, as they will only increase in price as seats are sold. Check-in was chaotic to say the least, partly as a fault of the airline for not allowing any form of online check-in at Birmingham Airport, and partly due to Birmingham Airport not coping well with long queues at check-in. Passengers had started queuing long before check-in even opened, which meant congestion in and around the check-in area. Now it's easily missed, but they do mention that online check-in isn't available during booking. In fact, on the return leg, I completely missed the fact that online check-in is required, otherwise there is a charge of €10 per person. What's worse is that when trying to check in online, it doesn't explicitly state that you will be charged if you don't check in, which is why I didn't, as I thought I have luggage to check in anyway, so I'll do all at the airport in one go. Now back at check-in, once it opened, the queue started to get processed. However, it didn't help matters that only 2 check-in counters were open. As a result of a not so smooth check-in experience and poor and inconsistent documentation, I give Corendon Airlines a 3 out of 5 for check-in experience. It was a full flight and the gate area was busy. There really isn't enough room for 189 passengers here. What made it worse is that the next gate had another full flight also boarding around the same time. This was Sun Express, who happened to be going to the same destination, Antalya. Not sure why Birmingham Airport decided to put 2 full flights departing around the same time to the same destination in such close proximity. It would have been better to spread them out to other gates. So you've got check-in and boarding handled by on-site staff. So this is staff at Birmingham Airport. And unfortunately, as is the case with many flights, you have a long queue that forms, even though everyone has allocated seating. Boarding soon commenced. There appeared to be no priority boarding from what I could see, even though they do sell it as a feature on their website. We made our way down the stairs and onto the tarmac. Our flight today was a Boeing 737-800. It's an 11-year-old aircraft, having formerly served another low-cost Turkish carrier, Pegasus. Corendon Airlines has leased it since 2019. Now what was bizarre was the cabin crew saying that recording was forbidden as I was boarding.
Yes sir, it's forbidden.
Now, before I move on to the rest of the review, I should give my verdict on their boarding experience. Given how chaotic it felt, I give it a 3 out of 5. Now I should disclaimer it by saying that this is partly due to Birmingham Airport's fault for not managing their gates properly by spreading out flights leaving at the same time. There isn't much to be said about seating. First class it ain't. If you've ever flown Ryanair, then this is identical, although surprisingly these seats do recline slightly.
And unfastened as shown. For your safety, please keep your seatbelt fastened at all times.
We soon took off slightly late. Takeoff was smooth, which was a complete difference to the landing on the return leg, which felt like it shattered my bones. The in-flight catering is your usual low-cost airline affair. There are a few main meals, sandwiches, snacks and drinks on offer. Prices are very reasonable. The only issue I had was paying for it. Even though they accepted card payments, it didn't appear to work. As I had no other cash on me, it took 3 tries and 3 different cards for the payment to go through. I'm not sure if I got lucky on the 3rd try or if it was the fact that I used a Visa card instead of a MasterCard on the 3rd go. I tried one of the sandwiches. Let's just say it was mainly dry bread that you can taste. All meat and chicken products are halal. Overall, I give the catering a 3 out of 5. As it's a short haul flight, I'd recommend eating before you get on board. Well, what else can I say about this flight? Essentially, it was a unremarkable flight. Sometimes that's a good thing when you need to get from A to B as cheaply as possible. The only thing that left a bad taste in my mouth, apart from the food, was the unclear charges at check-in. Unlike Ryanair, who explicitly state that you need to check in online, otherwise charges will result, Corendon briefly mentioned it in a very small text during booking. And even then it's not consistent on all legs of the flight, since at some airports like Birmingham they don't offer online check-in. You'd be forgiven for getting caught out like I did. Also, their customer service is non-existent. When I tried to complain about the charges, there appeared to be no way to speak to someone on the phone. I'd hate to see what would happen if something went seriously wrong, such as a cancelled flight. Even contacting them by Twitter took over a week to get a response. Even though they are cheap, I don't think I'd fly with them again. There are better airlines out there, and judging by recent searches I've done, they are no longer the cheapest, which was my primary reason for booking them. They get a 2 out of 5 from me.